to demand the removal of a judge who was investigating last year's deadly explosion at Beirut port. Well, Hezbollah and Amal are accusing the Christian Lebanese Forces Party of being behind today's gunfire, which lasted for hours and is believed to have been the work of snipers. Well, the Christian Party is denying any involvement and has condemned the violence. Meanwhile, the Lebanese army has been deployed to the area and says that 9 arrests have been made. France 24's Marios Sofos has this report for us.
Endless rounds of gunfire rang out in the streets of the Lebanese capital on Thursday. Here, a man struck by a bullet is seen being carried away by other residents. Elsewhere, this man in a balaclava fires a machine gun in the middle of the road. Beirut became a theatre of urban guerrilla warfare, forcing the army to be deployed to bring calm to the streets. It all began with this demonstration by militants from the Shiite Muslim movements Hezbollah and Amal. They gathered in front of the Palais de Justice, located in one of Beirut's Christian neighbourhoods, calling for the removal of Tariq Bitar. He is the judge in charge of the investigation into August 2020's port explosion that left more than 200 people dead and some 6,500 injured. Hezbollah and Amal have accused Christian Party Lebanese forces of starting the clashes by positioning snipers in surrounding buildings and firing on demonstrators, a claim that has been denied by the party.
It's not clear who was shooting. What we heard was there were snipers on rooftops. They began the shooting. But then it's clear that there were also armed elements amongst the protesters. We were seeing images of gunmen on the street also responding to the snipers. And then it quickly escalated and spread to different neighborhoods.
Street clashes rarely descend into such violence in Beirut, with several people killed and others wounded on Thursday. Prime Minister Najib Mikati has called for calm to be restored.
Well, let's get the latest and cross to Beirut. We can speak to France 24's Sally Farhat. Sally, any more details emerging as to just what happened there today?
So the situation so far remains calm in Beirut tonight, including the area where the clashes originally took place earlier in the day, in Ain al-Ramani and Tayouna in particular. Both areas are almost free of residents who have fled Beirut in an attempt to find a safer place for them and their families. And until this hour, the army remains on ground in an attempt to basically keep the situation under control. As you said, the event left 6 dead and 32 injured and hundreds of kids traumatized, with the people or the source of the clashes today remaining unidentified. The government has also announced tomorrow, Friday, October 15, a national mourning day for those who were killed today.
Yeah, and these scenes sort of bring back memories of the civil war in Lebanon. I'm assuming there's a very tense mood there in Beirut this evening.
So yes, while calmness pervades in Beirut at the moment, the horrific clashes from today's events increased citizens' fear of an escalation of the situation into a civil war. And this is mostly because of 2 reasons. One, the situation in general in Lebanon is unstable, and there has been talks over the past year that there is a fear of actually heading into a civil war. And the second reason why people are feeling a civil war is because in the same area where the clashes took place today, back in 1975, the civil war started. So today's intense scene reminded the Lebanese of the civil war, which they wish not to relive for sure.
And of course, all of this stems from those protests against the Judge Tariq Bitar, who's leading the investigation into last year's blast at Beirut port. I mean, where does today leave that investigation, do you think?
I mean, clearly the protests from today and then the following clashes aim to jeopardize Judge Tariq Bitar's investigation. And whether it will or not is still not sure. But we have 2 things to look at here. The history of investigations in the country have led to nowhere. We've had almost 15 or around 15 assassinations over the past year, including politicians such as Rafiq al-Hariri, journalists such as Samir Asir and Jabran al-Twaini, and all the investigations into the assassinations of these people and more led to nowhere. However, it feels like something is different this time, and we can talk about 2 things here. One, Tariq Bitar is insisting on the investigation despite the attempts to stop him. And then the second thing is that the justice system seems to be doing its job differently this time and more so leaning towards justice this time, because several appeals were actually issued against Bitar. They called for suspending Bitar, but none of them were actually accepted by any court in Lebanon. So yes, while Judge Tariq Bitar has so many people or many people against him and parties who are protesting to have him removed, he also at the same time has a big fan base or people who really stand next to him and with him in his fight towards justice, including the families of the victims who see him as a hope for once in the history of Lebanon that an investigation could possibly lead somewhere with Judge Tariq Bitar leading.